In this video, we are going to look at one of the most important reading skills there is. Your children are going to use this skill from the day they learn to read, and college graduates use this skill every day in their studies. So, this is an important reading skill regardless of your reading level. Beginners through advanced need this skill. So I'm going to go to the reading section of my notebook. Here's Memory Piece 1 that we've already looked at. And here is the one I'm looking at today. This is item number 2. And there are actually 2 parts to this. I'm going to record this video and then stop it, and then I'll record the other one. But this is item number 2, the 2 parts. You have this graphic organizer and then this passage that comes from the TABE Tutor textbook. So let's read this, and then we'll look at what main idea means. Monarch butterflies make a two-way migration. When it starts to get cold, millions of them fly south. They fly from the northeastern United States and Canada to Mexico. Some fly as far as 3,000 miles. In the spring, they fly back. Okay, the word in this passage that gives me some pause, makes me stop and think, is migration. So let's see if we can use our context clues to figure out what migration means. So we're talking about butterflies, and this is two-way migration. It tells me that they fly south, and then in the spring they fly back. So there are the 2 ways. Migration is a flight south. Let's say flight to another place. So we are talking about butterflies, and they're flying to the south and then back home to the north. Migration. So when you look down here at this organizer, the topic is going to be just 2 or 3 words. We're talking about monarch butterflies. This is a certain type of butterfly. And I'm going to make this possessive because I'm going to say that the migration belongs to the butterflies. It's their migration, not birds or geese. It's butterflies' migration. So my topic is real short. It's just 2 or 3 words that tells what this passage is about. This would be a good title. If you have to come up with a title for a passage, look at the topic. The topic is the title in most cases. The main idea needs to be a sentence. So what is the author telling us about the butterfly's migration? What's the point that he or she is trying to make? Well, he or she actually gave us the main idea in a sentence. And sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But here's the main idea sentence. Monarch butterflies make a two-way migration. That is the main idea of this passage in a sentence. So we know that we're talking about monarch butterflies, and we know we're talking about migration. But what is the author trying to tell me about the migration? He's trying to tell me that it's a two-way trip. They fly to the south, and then they fly back home each year. So let's dig in and get the details. what are the details about this migration? So I'm working from the really, really general monarch butterflies migration to a little more specific, that monarch butterflies make a two-way migration, to the really, really detailed. This is where the details come in. So what's the first thing the author told me about the migration? Well, when it starts to get cold. So this migration starts when it turns cold. And the migration starts when millions of these butterflies fly south. Now, I don't want to rewrite my whole story. That's not necessary here. I'm just going to use bullet points. When it turns cold, they, meaning the butterflies, fly south. Sometimes this is a sentence, sometimes it isn't. It doesn't matter. We're not worried about grammar here. We're worried about comprehending the story. What is the story talking about? Okay, here's the second detail. They, again, we're talking about the butterflies. They fly from the northeastern United States and Canada to Mexico. So they leave the United States and Canada. And I'll tell you what, if you'll bear with me just a second here. If I can get to my settings, I need to stop my screen rotation. And I can't, so I'll just go with it. Sorry about that. I'm going to just put it right here. The trip to the south, they fly from United States, and I'm abbreviating, U.S. and Canada, so that's the starting place, to Mexico. So Mexico is their destination. When it turns cold, they fly south, and they go from the U.S. and Canada to Mexico. And then the next passage tells me that, the next sentence tells me that some fly as far as 3,000 miles. Can you imagine a butterfly flying 3,000 miles? So I'm going to abbreviate that one. I'm just going to say up to 3,000 miles. That's to the south. And then they turn around in the spring. They do what? They come back. So here is the last detail in this passage. And that's the last detail in my graphic organizer. They fly back in the spring. And again, I am not worried about grammar. I'm not worried about sentences. I am just making notes to myself here. I am making sure that I understand what they're telling me in this story. And that's that monarch butterflies make a two-way migration. And then they tell me about that migration. They describe that trip for me. So what I have here is my main idea in a sentence. And then I have my details. We got how the trip starts. We got what the trip is like. We've got how far the trip is. And then we've got how the trip ends. How do they actually end this migration process? Okay. That is a very simple paragraph compared to some that you're going to see. But if you learn how to work with these simple ones, the harder ones will get easier. So this one is pretty basic, but it gives you the idea of what we're doing here. The next passage is a little bit more difficult, and then we'll gradually work up to some that are very difficult. So I'll see you in the next video, and we'll work with memory piece number 3.